This is the Well Body Podcast with your host, Renee, the place where everyday women learn how to stop running on empty, reset their energy, nourish their bodies, and feel strong again. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Well Body Podcast. I'm so excited to have you back on another episode. If you haven't listened to my first two episodes of this year, we were really diving into a lot of actionable tools and tips that can actually help you to feel your best in terms of your energy, how you feel within your body, within yourself and your mind, everything. Because so many women are living their lives exhausted, overwhelmed, wired and tired and just wondering what's wrong with them, when in reality it's often just the foundations of energy that haven't been built. So in the last episode, we talked about food as information. So if you haven't listened to that episode, I highly recommend that after you've listened to this episode, you go back to the nutrition episode and have a good listen to it, because we spoke a lot about fibre, protein, and fats as the nourishment your body needs to actually produce sustainable energy, not just as quick highs followed by crashes. But today, we're exploring the next pillar of energy, which is movement. Not movement for calorie burning, you can forget that. Not for punishment, you can forget that too. And not earning your food, you can also forget that. So we want to talk about movement as a biological requirement for energy, vitality, mental clarity, hormonal balance, and long-term health. Movement isn't something you do after you get energy. Movement is one of the biggest ways you actually create energy. I always like to say energy creates energy. So let's dive into it. Okay, so we often think exercise drains energy. And yes, overtraining does for sure. But the right types of movement and the right amount of movement actually build your energy systems. So movement increases your mitochondrial density. So do you remember that little analogy I told you in the last episode about the mitochondria? The mitochondria, she's the energy driver of your cell. I want you to picture this lady, this little female thing, whatever you want to see it as, a creature or a human or whatever, and she's riding a bike, and she's riding that bike fast. Like, you know, those American kind of like, what do they call, like Peloton classes where the music's high vibe, the lights are flashing, the music's loud, and everyone is going hard and they're pushing their body. I want you to imagine this like little being on a bike inside your cell, and she is going hard like those instructors are, and her hands are moving up in the air and she's going hard. And in order for her to go hard, she needs the right things to do that. And that comes from food, and that also comes from movement. So your mitochondria, these little Peloton riding things, are the energy factories, and they take in oxygen, nutrients, and glucose and turn them into ATP. So if you did PE at high school, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. The thing, ATP, is the thing that your cells use to function. So if you ever felt like your battery is flat, like the girl on that Peloton bike just can't quite keep up, she's feeling fatigued, she's feeling like she doesn't even want to be in class and she's hating the environment, it's often because your mitochondria aren't being stimulated enough. So movement, especially strength training, literally tells your body to build more mitochondria, so build more of these hardcore riding Peloton bike riding things inside your cells. I'm like visualizing a little girl right now, like a female woman who kind of like looks like me, but like an even more energized version of me. And she's riding this bike so hardcore, and she's dancing, and she's literally dancing like no one's watching. Like, I'm visualizing this type of person on this bike, and she's driving my cells and they're replicating. We're making more. So anyway, side note, visualizing that. You're building more mitochondria. You're strengthening the ones that you already have. So the girls that are already on those bikes, like, they're getting stronger because they're consistently showing up, doing their thing. And you're also clearing up the damaged ones. So the ones that are feeling fatigued all the time and like they just don't want to be there and they're a bit of a low vibe, like, we're clearing out the damaged ones, okay? So the more mitochondria equals the more energy. So movement will improve that. Now, movement also improves circulation. So when you move, your blood flow increases, and this also means that more oxygen is delivered to your brain. Ever wondered why after doing a workout you feel so good? You feel so like, oh my God, I've got all these ideas and I just need to write them down. Or like all of a sudden you like think of all the things in the house that you've got all this energy to do all of a sudden. So more oxygen delivered to your brain, more nutrients delivered to your cells, better detoxification, less inflammation. So yes, essentially when you strength train, you're creating positive inflammation in the body, but this in turn is going to mean less of the bad inflammation, okay? Because a bit of inflammation is okay, right? We have positive inflammation and then we have the real bad inflammation, which is when we have chronic inflammation. So it means less of that. And it's also going to mean better mental clarity. Ever wondered why, going out for a walk when you've been sitting at your desk all day makes you feel so good all of a sudden and you feel as though you don't need that afternoon nap? It's because that movement helps to improve better mental clarity. So that energy boost after your walk isn't just in your head. Like I said, it's physiology. Movement also improves your insulin sensitivity. So this is one of the biggest energy levers. If your cells don't respond well to insulin, your blood sugar becomes a roller coaster, and roller coasters feel like tired, foggy, craving sugar, needing more coffee, and all these different types of caffeinated beverages in the supermarket. You just constantly need it. You're unable to focus. Movement, even 10 minutes, makes your cells more responsive to insulin, and this creates smoother, steady energy. There's a reason why now we're saying after you eat, you should actually do a little bit like 10 minutes of movement, whether that's a 10-minute digestive walk or 10 minutes. Sometimes for me personally, my 10 minutes of movement after eating is a little cleanup of the house or putting the washing away or giving the floor a bit of a vacuum because there's crumbs all over the floor from the kids' dinner. So my 10 minutes of movement doesn't always look like a 10-minute walk, but it will be 10 minutes of some kind of movement. We're not just kind of like eating and then sitting down. So 10 minutes makes a massive difference to how your body responds to insulin. So there's a reason why people that have more muscle in their body can eat a croissant and not even feel bloated and not even feel like they've had that crash versus someone who's got no muscle. I'm not saying like no muscle at all, but like low muscle who will eat that croissant and feel so bloated and feel as though it's taken them for all they've got. They're running their car on empty trying to get up a hill. So movement is really important. Walking can bring your nervous system down from stress mode as well. So strength training teaches your body to tolerate short bursts of intensity, which actually makes you more resilient to stress. And mobility work regulates your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest, digest, and repair mode. Movement doesn't just use up energy. It actually helps you generate more of it. Okay. So the 3 types of movement that supercharge your energy are strength training, walking and low intensity movement, and mobility and stretching. So we're going to dive into each of these 3 because these are the 3 types of movement that I would really love to see you doing more often. Let's start with strength training, my absolute favorite. It is the backbone to long-term energy, metabolism, hormone health, and aging well. And if you partake in any kind of activity or sport or hobby, strength training is going to make you so much better at that thing that you do. Okay? Strength training helps you to build muscle. So important. Having muscle on your body is your longevity tool. It's going to help you to improve glucose control. So helping you to eat a croissant and not fall to the ground because you've had a bit of carbohydrate without dressing them with some fats and protein. It's actually going to help you to improve the way your body metabolizes glucose. It's going to help you to boost your metabolic rate, okay, which means you can get away with eating more food. Woohoo, we always love that. Supports healthy hormones, really important to have a great menstrual cycle so that you don't get to your luteal phase. And if you don't know what your luteal phase is, go and find one of my podcast episodes on the luteal phase. But it's going to help you to move through that phase before menstruation again. And you're not going to feel as like 2 weeks of your cycle, every single cycle is just you completely out. It's going to help to increase joint stability, really important so that we don't find ourselves constantly injuring ourselves or having sore joints. It reduces the rate of injuries when performed well and with good technique. And it also makes daily life easier because we can't always rely on our husbands or our partners to do the shit for us that we need doing. Sometimes something really heavy might be sitting in the garage that you need moved and you keep asking them, they don't do it. Well, if you're strong, you're going to be able to do it yourself. Even if you don't want to, you can do it because you're strong and you've got the ability to do it. Now, unfortunately, women often fear strength training or they've been told it will make them bulky, which is completely false. What strength training actually does is make you feel grounded, supported, and stable in your own body. What makes you look bulky when you have muscle is if you've got large amounts of body fat on your body, that's going to make your muscle look bulky, yes. But in turn, having muscle is friggin' healthy and it's so important. So let's stop deloading the weights just to look long and lean like a model, and let's start actually being realistic about having strong bodies with decent amounts of muscle on them. Women are warriors. We're not supposed to be skin and bone. That's how they want us to be, so that we don't have our own inner strength and qualities, all right? I want you to feel as though you're Wonder Woman. I don't know about you, but I would love to have Wonder Woman's figure with those strong legs and those big biceps, because she can just conquer the world and do anything. To me, that's hot. That's a sign of hard work, and that's a sign of respect. When someone's got muscle on their body, I respect them instantly, because I'm like, you've worked hard for that. In some way or form, you've worked hard for that. And I madly respect that. So muscle, it's metabolically active, okay? It's protective, it's anti-aging, and it's energy. So even 2 to 3 strength sessions a week is enough to profoundly change how you feel. You don't need to be strength training every day. 2 to 3 times a week is fantastic. It's a great baseline. It's a great place to be. If you can maintain that every week, you're winning. And that's amazing. You don't also need to do like a bodybuilder split where you're doing like shoulders and chest, or just shoulders and arms, and then chest, and then back, and then legs. You don't need to be spending your whole week in the gym doing that kind of split. And that's not what most people need to be doing. That's probably like 1% of people. So forget about needing to spend 6 to 7 days in the gym and focus on actually getting in quality strength training sessions, 2 to 3 a week, where you're doing push, pull, legs. All right? Now, walking and low intensity movement is incredibly powerful. This is your daily baseline, and I've literally seen clients drop kilos just from improving their movement. They had an okay diet, they were doing a bit of strength training, but they were sitting at their desk all day. And once they started improving their daily movement by doing some low intensity cardio, by doing some walking every day, they dropped 5 kilos. Some even dropped 10, because what they weren't doing enough of was moving their body. They were staying stagnant. They were sitting at their desk, driving in their car, watching TV, and then sitting around resting on the weekends and barely getting a couple thousand steps in. This made a massive difference. So not only does walking help improve that, if that's your goal, but it's also going to improve circulation. It's going to help stabilize blood sugar. It's going to massively support digestion, as we've spoken about. It clears the mind, great for your mental health. It boosts your mood, again, great for your mental health. And enhances your creativity, which we're all, as humans, we're all creative. We're all creative beings. We're supposed to be creative beings. So don't even tell yourself you're not. Move your body, you feel more creative. It's also going to help you with belly bloating if bloating is a real issue for you. And it's going to support lymphatic drainage, which can be another issue, inflammation, right? Walking is the most natural human movement pattern. And we were never designed to sit at desks for 8 hours and then try and make up for it with one gym class. Movement should be woven throughout the day. And if your workplace is not in favor of you doing that, you need to have a chat to the person who's in charge of like well-being and health, because movement daily is so important. You shouldn't be sitting at your desk getting lunch. You shouldn't be, sitting through every meeting. Like, we need to encourage people to move more. Most of us spend a lot of our time at work. So we need to make our workplace environment a place where we encourage people to get up and move a lot more. So you could maybe set your work team or your space up with a step challenge, but I highly recommend you getting out there and walking more. It's so important. And if you could take one thing from this whole episode, it would be to walk more, especially after meals, especially after lunch. Don't sit at your desk, please. I know it's tempting and you just want to get shit done, but just get up and move. You're going to be so grateful that you did. You're going to feel so much better, mentally, physically, less bloating, less digestive issues. It's a win-win. Okay. Mobility and stretching is a third thing, and mobility is the unsung hero of energy, because mobility improves joint lubrication, muscle length, flexibility, posture, nervous system regulation, and pain reduction. And I can 100% speak on this one from my own experience. For the last 3 years, I've dealt with chronic back pain. Nothing shifted until I committed to daily mobility. I was doing a bit of mobility in my training sessions, but I was probably only doing 3 training sessions a week and walking. And for me, I was still dealing with this debilitating back pain, and it was stopping me from doing a lot, and I was just feeling so lethargic from it. So what I started to actually implement was daily mobility. And they weren't long sessions either, just consistent, simple patterns. Some of the mobility exercises that I do every single day is the yogi squat. And if you follow me on Instagram and TikTok, this is something I've posted recently. Hip openers, again, I've posted this one as well. And a couple more, which I will post as well later on. Thoracic rotations, some gentle back mobility movements in a little sequence that I do, and also breathing. Breathing into the tight areas and making sure that I'm taking more time to actually just be and breathe. Half of the time, our myoscleral pain, our aches, our unexplained back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain can actually be signs of a really dysregulated nervous system and not feeling safe in the body and feeling chronically stressed all the time. And something that can actually improve that massively is breathing better. Breathing from your diaphragm, nasal breathing, and mobility is also improving like the safety in your movement. You're teaching your brain that it's okay to do these types of movements. As soon as we get into a stretch or a mobility exercise and we start to go, oh, this hurts, ow, ow, and we're telling our brain it's no good, it's going to be really hard to improve. So we need to also adopt this breathing, this beautiful mindset around the way that we move our body so that we have safety in our body, in our nervous system. This is a massive reason why some people can do the splits and some people can't. They're telling their body it's safe to do it. They're okay with the movement. And some people fear it and tell themselves constantly they can't, and living in high stress constantly and not doing enough to improve the stress in their life. So mobility can massively improve that, and my back has never been better since doing daily mobility. And like I said, I do what I call mobility snacks because I don't have time to do a strength training session, a mobility session, a run, a fucking hike, and all these things that you need to do in your week to be able to stay healthy and fit, because I'm trying to run a business, look after my kids, keep my house in check, be a good wife, all those things that I'm trying to be. Also, building a podcast, I'm trying to be an actor, like all these things. I'm busy. So daily mobility really has helped. It's made a massive difference, and it's improved the way I actually squat, lunge, do so many of my exercises and my strength training sessions too. And it's been fantastic for that. And that in turn has massively improved my energy. So what the West gets wrong about movement, which is the world that we kind of live in, this quote unquote developed world. And I really want to touch on this because it's important. But in the West, we're incredibly one-dimensional with movement. We sit in chairs, we drive everywhere, we avoid the floor, we really squat deeply, we outsource movement to quote unquote workouts, and that's the only form of movement we do. We stretch only when we're in pain. Meanwhile, in other cultures who have got it so right, they sit on the ground, they squat naturally, they walk far more, they carry heavy things, they move in varied patterns throughout the day, and they don't rely on everyone to do everything for them. The difference is why this difference is literally why so many people suffer with hip pain, knee pain, lower back pain, stiffness, chronic fatigue, postural issues. We've stopped moving the way humans are designed to move. And then we wonder why we're tired and in pain all the time. Which is why movement massively impacts your energy, because when you're in pain, you don't feel like doing anything, and that's not good for your energy. Look at the way a kid moves on the playground, the way they pull themselves up onto the monkey bars, the way they pull themselves up onto the spider webs or the ropes or whatever it is they've got on that playground. Watch how they pull, how they jump, how they twist, how they rotate, how they sit, how they might do activities at home when they're playing in a yogi squat position, how they move around the floor like an animal. They do all these movements that are so incredibly natural and primal for us as humans to do, but we stop playing. At some point in life, we just get so sedentary, we stop moving, we stop playing. PE becomes something that's not compulsory, and it becomes something that you can do. And we live in this culture where movement is this thing where it's like, oh, I have to do that. Oh, I just want to sit and relax all the time. And I'm not saying relaxing is actually really important, but what I'm saying is we're too one-dimensional now, and it's probably the reason why in the West we have so much chronic pain versus in the East, like, some Asian countries or those blue zones, certain places in Europe where there's no such thing as lower back pain, like literally. So the way we move has a direct correlation to our energy. So how can we move for more energy realistically and achievable? How can we make it achievable? So here are some practical ways for you to use movement as an energy enhancer rather than exhaustion. So number one could be starting your day with 2 to 10 minutes of movement. And this could just be a gentle hip opener, a yogi squat for a few minutes. It could be some cat-cows. It could be a little walk around your block. It could be some kind of, yoga movement you enjoy. And this is going to wake up your nervous system and your joints. And it's only takes a couple minutes just to get on the floor and do some beautiful mobility movements. And like I said, just hold the yogi squat for a few minutes and then move the arms up and down to get a little bit more movement in. This will massively wake up your joints and your nervous system in a good way, as I just said. And then walking after meals. This is a game changer. 10 to 20 minute walks after meals, because it's going to help lower blood sugar spikes, improve your digestion. It's going to boost your energy, reduce your cravings, and support your hormone health. It's simple, but it's powerful. Then the next one is where we get more formal, and that's strength training. So 2 to 3 sessions or 2 to 3 times a week. Now, this doesn't need to be long. It just needs to be consistent. You can strength train from home. You can strength train in a gym. You need to do what works for you so that you're strength training every week. And if that means at-home workouts, that's great. If that means you're at a gym and you're following, a gym program, that's also great. If you're working with a personal trainer too, even better. Like, there's just, so many ways you can do it. Just make sure you're doing it in a way that is strength training where you're consistently adding load. If you haven't got weights at home, you're adding in more reps. Like, you're making sure that your strength training sessions are hard. Then mobility snacks throughout the day is your next one. So setting reminders if you need to, but just 1 to 3 minutes at a time, where you might just get off your desk and go sit in a yogi squat, or you might get off your desk and do a little bit of thoracic mobility, or you might grab a stick and do some shoulder mobility, or do some deep squats or some glute activation. But you're finding ways to have these little movement snacks throughout your day to help you build energy rather than draining it because you haven't done anything all day and then you need to all of a sudden go and do a 1.5 hour stint at the gym. Okay? Find ways to incorporate it into your everyday so it becomes part of your lifestyle. If you look at some Asian cultures, they will get up in the morning and they move their body around like a park or outside. They're doing all these beautiful Tai Chi movements, or they're just moving their body in ways that people in the West might think is random, but actually it's so incredibly beneficial. What they're doing is so smart. They're starting their day like this and anchoring their day in these beautiful foundations. And I think it's fantastic. And then you see them kind of after a meal, they will be out moving again. They sit in that yogi squat position a lot when they're talking on the phone, when they're chatting with friends, or having a cup of miso soup or a tea or a matcha. They're not just one-dimensional. And I think that's something we need to really take into account and admire from that culture. I think it's incredible. So find ways to incorporate more movement into your everyday life rather than it only just being something you do formally. Okay? And I really want you to just move because it makes you feel alive. This is the emotional mindset layer. Movement is not a punishment. It's not about shrinking yourself. It's about nourishment. When you approach movement from a place of support rather than self-judgment, your entire energy shifts. So I want to give you a little challenge for this week, or from the next day or today, whenever you're listening to this podcast onwards. Challenge 1, all right, just choose one of these challenges. Challenge 1 is to walk after one meal each day, just 10 minutes. And I want you to take note of your digestion, your mood, and your energy shift. Challenge 2, morning mobility minute. 2 to 5 minutes of gentle movement, all right, to help set the tone for the day. Challenge 3, 2 strength sessions this week. They don't have to be long. They just need to happen. Because these tiny little upgrades create profound change over time. Now, I don't want you to go, I'm going to overhaul my movement life all in one go. Like I said, choose one of those challenges, implement them, and keep implementing them. And once that little challenge becomes a bit more regular, then you can add another challenge on. But let's not try and overwhelm ourselves, okay? So, I hope you have learned something about movement and how important it is for your overall health and energy. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Well Body Podcast, part of our energy series. In this episode, I really hope it made you think differently about movement, or reminded you that movement is nourishment for your energy and not punishment or just something to burn calories. Please share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, or leave me a review, because it truly helps this podcast reach more women who are tired or are just tired of feeling tired. In our next episode, we're moving into the nervous system energy, which is all about stress, burnout, cortisol, and why so many women feel wired, overwhelmed, and exhausted all at once. So thank you so much for listening, and I really look forward to having you in on the next episode. Thank Thanks for listening to the Well Body podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a review or share it with someone who needs to hear it. You can find more support, resources, and information on my website at www.beyondthebody.co. Until next time, I look forward to having you in the next episode.